Technology has changed a lot during the years, and a lot of film companies have adapted to these new technologies, mostly CGI and things that were popular at the time. As movies continue to be made over the years, many people are not satisfied with how the horror genre has a lot of CGI. Many complain that it's lazy and lose creativity in compared to older films. Well, today we will just dive deep into the whether the horror films over the years actually became better or just became less creative. Before modern horror, early horror films started in the early 19s and focused more on atmosphere and storytelling rather than effects. As time went on, especially in the 1970s and 1980s, horrors became more experimental, using practical effects, makeup, and creative techniques to create fear. This is where we get iconic characters like Freddy Krueger from A Nightmare of Elmer Street. They use practical effects like makeup, puppets, and real props to create fear. And because those things were actually there physically, it made the horror feel more believable. You also see this in films like Killer Clowns from Outer Space, which use costumes and creative design instead of digital effects. These movies didn't rely on technology, they relied on creativity, and I think that's why they are still so memorable today. But as technology advanced, especially in the 2000s and 2010s, horror film began to rely more on CGI and digital effects instead of practical ones, like Slenderman. This movie relied heavily on digital effects to create the character and atmosphere, but a lot of viewers felt like it was made the film less scary because the CGI looked too artificial. It took away the realism that helped build fear in movies. When everything is digital, your brain kind of knows it's fake, and it takes you out of the experience. This shows even though CGI gives filmmakers more possibilities, using it too much of it or using it poorly can actually weaken the impact of a horror film instead of improving it. But at the same time, I don't think CGI is completely bad. It allows filmmakers to create things that weren't possible before, like extreme transformations or environments. A good example of CGI being used the right way is Hereditary. This film doesn't rely heavily on CGI, but instead focuses on atmosphere, acting, and real environments to create fear. When CGI is used, it's very subtle and blended naturally into the film, so the audience doesn't even notice it. Because of this, the movie feels more real and more disturbing. This shows that the CGI isn't the problem, but it's how it's used. When filmmakers use it carefully instead of relying on it completely, it can actually enhance the horror instead of taking it away from it. And then there's the way horror is structured now. A lot of modern films rely heavily on jump scares, loud noises, and quick cuts. Things that surprise you instead of actually building fear. It feels more like a reaction than real horror. Many movies feel repetitive and use the same format. To build up suspense or horror, when one horror movie becomes successful, other motives starts copying the same formula instead of creating new ideas. It makes horror feel repetitive instead of original, though. Another important point is something that I like to call the Simpsons effect. I got it from another. I've heard a lot of people talk about it, but I'm gonna explain it. The Simpsons effect is what it sounds like. When The Simpsons become popular, a lot of animation studios wanted the same fame, so they tried to copy the same format. Many did succeed, like Family Guy and American Dad. Others tried and completely failed. And it just becomes corny, just like repetitive, seeing it again, try to see the same concept. That's the same thing happening with horror movies now. But honestly, I'm starting to see a shift in horror movies and movies in general. Now that I'm seeing new creative ideas instead of repetitive stuff from the last couple of years. Yeah, I do agree that some old movies are not good. I do agree some old movies are not good, but they do have some good special effects and visuals. Honestly, I would rather have good visuals and storytelling, in my opinion, but that's just me. My only exception that I will give like bad visuals and storytelling is Final Freddy's because I've been waiting for that movie to come out for 9 years. Like I was little. It was it was hell. Like, I really like the first one, but the CGI they used on the second one, they kinda did do good. 'Cause, they actually used props and everything, but, like, CGI and the puppet, it was not for me. It was not good. We don't talk about it. So, in my opinion, horror movies haven't completely gotten worse, and I'm starting to see a change in newer ones during these years, with banger after banger coming out, like The Backrooms, The Mummy, and other coming out. I don't want to name all because like it's gonna be a lot, but they have changed. Technology has made things easier, but sometimes that also makes films feel less creative. At the end of the day, what really makes a horror movie good isn't the technology, it's the creativity behind it. Because you can have all the CGI in the world and like the best CGI and everything, but in the idea isn't strong, it's not gonna be scary. So the real question isn't whether the horror